The position of Massachusetts Treasurer is one we don't talk about all that often, but it comes with some big responsibilities. The lottery, alcohol rules, state retirement and pension funds, and more than $60 billion a year in state funds that come in and out of cities and towns, school districts, and beyond. I'm joined now by the two candidates vying for the job to oversee it all. Incumbent State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, she's a Democrat who's served in the role since 2015. Good to see you, Treasurer.
Good to see you.
And Republican challenger Keiko Orrell, who's currently serving as a state rep for the 12th Bristol District. It's good to see you, Representative. Thanks for being here. Let me start with you. At the Republican convention, you said the Treasurer's office has a recent history of overregulation, overreach, and in many cases, just not getting the job done. How has Treasurer Goldberg not gotten the job done, Representative?
Well, first off, the lottery decision that has been made to move it out of Braintree after it's been there for years is really unclear to me. It's an issue that needs to be addressed because we don't know where they're moving. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know why they're moving. That's where I think we definitely need to have a change of leadership.
What else? Is that it?
No, I think we have a backlog in the unclaimed funds division where that division oversees money that is supposed to be going back to the taxpayers, and I don't think enough of an effort is being made to return that money. When you owe the government money, they certainly come after you. I believe we need to do more of an effort to return. We're only returning 10% of that money to the people.
Treasurer Goldberg, we're going to respond to both those things, both the potential move and the unclaimed money?
I'm happy to. And in the interest of brevity, I'll go through the facts very carefully. December 2014, the Lottery Commission took a vote to extend their lease for 5 years and 5 years only, saying that we would have to go out in an RFP and that the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, which is under the Governor's office, would need to work on that with us. June 2016, they met with the lottery folks. They made a determination that the site was not unique because unique sites, you can typically then renegotiate a lease, and they recommended breaking it into 3 pieces to not limit the amount of developers.
So there will be a move?
There's absolutely a move. We have a signed lease for the administrative offices that will be moving to Dorchester. We put into the RFP Braintree, Quincy, Weymouth, and Boston.
And quickly, unclaimed returns, which all of us look down the list to see if we've got money there.
I read it and I call my friends.
She says only 10% goes back to the
taxpayers. So we're #1 in the country in returning unclaimed property. We instituted a new software system last year successfully, so successfully that more and more people came in. It took us a little bit longer because we had never had to manage that number of people. We've hired extra customer service people, and now we're right on top of it.
What's wrong with those two responses?
So programs like that have had a precedence in the legislature of having legislators contact their constituents about unclaimed funds. That is not an acceptable rate of return. We need to be returning more of that money to the taxpayers. And I believe there needs to be some looking at what is the criteria for returning $5 versus returning $5,000. Other states are able to return it quickly, and I think we need to do a better job.
Well,
but back to the lottery.
#1 in the country.
Can we just hear the Treasurer respond? Yeah.
We're #1 in the country in returning money to people. In
what
fact,
is #1? What does that mean? The percentage?
The percent of getting it back to people and getting the most amount of money back to people.
We need to be doing a better job of returning more
but
of that.
But you acknowledge we're #1? Is the Treasurer right?
$2.4 billion of taxpayer dollars is being held by the Commonwealth.
Let me turn to something where you do return money, if we can, the lottery, which I think everybody at home either plays or knows a lot about. You proposed online purchases. So far, the legislature hasn't bought in. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, with casinos, fantasy, sports, the lottery becomes irrelevant if it's not.
And now sports betting.
And sports betting. Make your case. Why does it have to go online?
Well, because everyone's on mobile today. You shop on mobile. Everyone expects to be able to access things through mobile. We don't want to be, well, Toys R Us may be making a comeback. I hope for their sake they are. But they got online much later than they should have, and everyone was ahead of the game with them.
Should they be online? One second.
We have had the most successful lottery. We've had record sales, record profits since I've been treasurer.
So then why do they need to go online?
Because our competitive states, New Hampshire's coming online this year. Michigan has increased sales.
Okay,
I want to make sure we have more money for every community in the.
The
Should
main
they be
issue
online?
with the lottery is where is the headquarters moving, and the lease expires in January, and it's not clear where they're moving to.
Would you know where they're? I don't want to return to that, but quickly.
The headquarters is moving to Dorchester. We have a signed
We
lease.
have the
Should they
warehouse
be-
in the
excuse me.
Southeast Regional Office that is not. It's not clear where they're
Should-
moving and how much it's going to cost.
Should the lottery sales go online?
That's a question that we should discuss after we address the
feel?
critical issue. I think that I've talked to enough small businesses that are concerned about the traffic in their brick and mortar stores that we need to carefully look at that issue.
But so you don't have a position yet.
I think we have to look more carefully at the situation that is with this move. We don't know
So we
why
can't
it's
decide
moving.
anything about
Why
the
is
lottery
the
without
lottery
deciding the move?
Oh, no, I think we can have the discussion.
One second, please.
Why are they
No
moving?
problem.
Where are they moving?
Okay.
What's the big secret? How many millions is it going to cost? Those are the types of questions that I'm concerned about. And as far as sports betting, that needs to be something that should be considered with the lottery. As far as bringing in the ability to maybe expand.
Well, you say
the
considered.
lottery.
I've read you say we should be an active participant. So
Yes,
should we
should be
consider it or we should do it?
We should be an active participant.
You
We
don't
should be
support
looking
sports
into-
betting. Why?
It's not that I don't support sports betting. I said if sports betting is given the capacity to go online, then the lottery needs to be online too.
So you'd support sports betting if both things were online?
Well, it's the law now. We had the legislature and the representatives in the legislature has to deal with that.
It's not the law in Massachusetts. The Supreme Court of the United States said it's
right.
permissible, but
and
it's not the law.
It's going to be implemented in most states.
But we don't know if it's going to be implemented here. Would you
I
want
suspect it will.
quickly? Yes.
So with the legislature, that we have had some discussions. We've had white paper briefings on sports betting, and there definitely is going to be a move to take that up, I believe, this next session.
Can we talk about the big picture about relying as heavily as we do, cities and towns, particularly depend on lottery, as you both know, on gambling? You might call it gaming. Years ago, a report was done by a Senate committee that showed that the average resident of Chelsea made $15,000 a year, spent $1,100 on the lottery. The average resident of Weston made $260,000 a year, spent $44 on the lottery. Is there something wrong with that picture, or are you fine, just full speed ahead?
Well, I think definitely we need to be looking at the formula because that hasn't been reviewed since the early 2000s.
And
as far as the profits,
have you
with the
filed a
lottery,
bill to look at that formula?
as
You
part
are
of
in the
Have
legislature.
you?
I haven't filed a bill on that specific
Because
subject.
Jim and I did
but
talk
think
about
that's
that
where,
4 years ago, and when I got there, I realized that this was the legislature.
Well, are you doing anything about it? I mean, this is almost like a Robin Hood in reverse kind of situation.
You and I
with lottery.
did speak about
So
that
where are we now?
years ago,
Where are we now on
and
this?
I have talked to the legislature about that. You and I
Saying
both
what?
Have you
saying
filed a
that
bill?
I am not in that position. I was told point blank that it is the legislator's role to do that.
But how would
what
you
I
change it?
do as the treasurer is make sure that we have record sales and record profits. Because as the former chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Brookline, I know how badly we need those funds.
As far as the record sales, that has not been adjusted since for inflation, and so that's where I think we absolutely need to look at the lottery and the sales of the lottery because it's actually been on decline since the early 2000s, according to the Pioneer Institute. Those numbers, the records that have been touted, that's not a real number.
I think that when you send
It's
$1
not
billion
adjusted
back for the first time in the history of the lottery, and the lottery was started in the 1970s, when you can break $1 billion mark, and it's never been done before, and every city and town gets part of that distribution, I would call that record profits.
I want to move
I'm
on
a former
to pension
business
funds if we
person.
can,
I know that.
if I may. You have proposed, Treasurer Goldberg, I will use the term to effect social change. You may disagree, but you can describe it as you choose, by proposing that the state divest any pension funds from gun sellers or manufacturers. So far, again, the legislature hasn't bought in. What's your responsibility? To make the most money through the pension fund or affect social
Jim, it's
change?
great you asked that because I just came from the National Association of State Treasurers. Only 9 of them are Democrats. The rest are Republican and, quite candidly, predominantly men. We had a whole session on shareholder action. And we had a presentation from John Nixon, who is the expert on the balance of ESG, which are socially active acts on the part of treasurers. You absolutely have a fiduciary duty to take those actions. Jesse Unruh in the 70s and 80s, who was Treasurer of California, began that kind of thing, and it is incumbent upon you because these social actions impact the bottom line of these companies and therefore their profits. So as an investor, you have a right to do that.
Do you support that? By the way, two questions, if I may, Representative. One, do you support divesting all money from gun sellers and manufacturers?
Do not.
Why do you not?
No, I don't.
Why
because we need to be looking at the best rate of return. We have Smith & Wesson in Springfield. That's not the way that we should be conducting the pension fund investments.
Okay, if I may move to
I really don't agree with that. We have $500,000 in automatic weapons. We represent teachers. The teachers overall feel that they have been the victims of these weapons. This is a single case where shareholder action isn't going to do anything when you have such a small investment, and consequently, overall, and by the way, I don't support divestment in a lot of different areas. I get together with all the other treasurers.
I've got to hold you there.
The bigger question here is the unfunded liability with our pensions and the reality that we need to have a strong partnership with the legislature so that those pensions can be fully funded.
Does she not have a strong relationship with the legislature on that issue?
I think that I have a stronger relationship with the legislature, having come from the legislature, serving 4 terms, and building those friendships and relationships and working
through that
and leading for change.
Yes.
Leading for change and being able to make a difference with the legislature.
Treasurer Goldberg.
So the governor and I, from the very beginning, did a road show, which I organized to go down and meet with all 3 of the rating agencies. And at the time, Kristen Lepore was head of administration and finance, and we developed a program of transferring funds to the pension fund. Pension reform took place in 2010. That resulted in the $5 billion savings. And
that was pre-you.
That was pre-me, but it was over time. And we are #1 in private equity out of 163 funds. Our returns have been outstanding, and we are filling that hole while I have reduced the rate of return and brought it down to a more conservative.
We need to continue to have the conversations in the legislature regarding the unfunded liabilities with the pensions to ensure that those funds are put in. And with the rising costs of health care, we absolutely need to continue to have those discussions.
Speaking of the legislature.
2010, 2011 with pension reform, yes, but we need to take another look, and you have to have someone who has the experience in working with the legislature to navigate those waters.
We only have 2 minutes left, so very quickly, if you can. Bond rating downgraded, first time in decades in 2017. Whose fault is that, and what should the treasurer do, have done, or do to deal with that situation quickly?
Well, again, I think it's the legislature, and we have to try to get to a better place.
It's not the governor who signed off on the diversion of funds?
No, I think we need to take responsibility as all government
What should the
leaders.
treasurer do about it?
I think I can tell you what I've done.
We need to continue to work to make sure that all of our that we're considering all of our.
What should the treasurer do? What did you do, by the way? Quickly.
2014, I went to our investor conference and I said, I am going to push the legislature to add money to the rainy day fund. They cannot divert any further. I pushed every Ways and Means meeting. I put it in my inaugural address. I warned people that we would get the downgrade. Now, the good news is that I also run debt management. Consequently, through savvy debt management and through timing and from making it very competitive, we actually haven't been negatively impacted, and our bond issuances have gone very, very well.
I've got to hold you.
But
I've got to hold you only because we have 1 minute left. Every conversation in America begins and ends here. Very quickly, 15 seconds each. 2 years of Donald Trump. Could you give me a 15-second rating for the president, please?
D.
Why?
I think that he has impacted our democracy in the most negative ways. He plays to people's worst instincts, and even though he has done some things that have improved the economy and made things better for some, he has brought out the worst in our people, not
Representative
the best.
Worrell, 2 years of Donald Trump.
I give him a much higher rating, and I believe that we have seen changes that will make improvements here in Massachusetts.
Would you vote for him again if he ran for re-election?
He has an unusual personality and an unusual way of communicating, but there are there are definitely
Has no dignity.
Would you vote for him again if he
No
ran for re-election?
dignity. A president needs dignity.
If he's up for re-election, I would support the president, and I believe that we need to have people on both sides of the aisle who are trying to get to civility and who are having honest conversations. That's what I've been doing as a leader, a bipartisan leader for change.
We got to go. Deb Goldberg, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
Keiko
much.
Earl, good luck to you too. Thanks so much.